Emperor Qianlong, it seemed, was obsessed with his pet project, a brand new garden in northwestern Beijing. The Summer Palace, as the garden would eventually be known, was a product of another of the emperor's obsessions, the scenery of the south. But what did this man-made marvel look like when it was finally completed after 15 years? Find out in episode 2 of Untold Stories from the Summer Palace.
Lake Kunming at the Summer Palace extends into 3 smaller bodies of water. Each has its own distinctive features, and all are linked by a series of embankments. An island called Nanhu and a stone bridge with 17 arches are located at the southern end of Lake Kunming. Set against the backdrop of a hill, they present a pleasant spectacle. This outstanding example of Chinese classical landscaping was created several centuries ago. The ultimate aim of the craftsmen who built it was to promote a sense of harmony between hill and water. Known at the time as Qingyi Yuan, or the Garden of Clear Ripples, the Summer Palace underwent steady expansion in the 18th century under the reign of Emperor Qianlong. However, it became more and more difficult for the emperor to justify the cost. Visitors today who wonder at his magnificent creation may ask themselves what motivated his garden obsession. An illustration of a ceremonial inspection tour conducted by Emperor Qianlong offers a clue to his reasons for building Qingyi Yuan. The garden was originally conceived as a water conservancy project aimed at transforming the local landscape. But within a year of work getting underway, a court artist named Dong Bangda was dispatched by the emperor to Hangzhou to paint its famous West Lake. His visit heralded a series of ceremonial inspection tours undertaken by Emperor Qianlong in person. The first of these tours began on the 13th day of the first lunar month in the 16th year of his reign, the year 1751. He was accompanied by the Empress Dowager, and he took a number of treasures with him, among them Dong Bangda's painting. "500 years earlier, an ancestor of Emperor Qianlong had sent an envoy on a similar mission to Hangzhou, which at the time was part of the territory of southern Song. That ancestor was Wan Yanliang, the king of the state of Jin, and his envoy had brought back with him an illustrated map which the king used in planning a southward invasion. Luck was against the king, however, because he died before he could even set eyes on Hangzhou's West Lake. To China's Qing rulers, the country's south was important both economically and culturally. Emperor Qianlong's grandfather Kangxi had visited the region on 6 occasions. Emperor Qianlong, like his grandfather, also conducted 6 southern tours. The first 3 took place while work on Qingyi Yuan was still in progress. The emperor saw the paradise on earth described by countless generations of writers and scholars. He was moved to write a verse on Dong Bangda's painting. Before I came, the painting gave me a vague impression. After I came, I saw every detail of the place. Only one who sees it in person can truly appreciate West Lake. For Emperor Qianlong, seeing the lake with his own eyes had a far more profound effect than just looking at the painting. The experience would also have a profound effect on the development of his capital, Beijing. A small yet exquisite garden lies on the eastern slope of Longevity Hill. Originally, this small garden was known as Huishan. In many ways, it is similar to Jichang Garden in Wuxi. A feature of Wuxi's Jichang Garden is Zhi Bridge, or the Bridge of Understanding Fish. The name comes from an essay by the spring and autumn period philosopher Zhuangzi. The bridge is very low, never more than a dozen centimetres above the water, and this makes it ideal for observing the fish below. Huishan Garden at the Summer Palace has a similar bridge. Another feature of Jichang Garden is the stream of musical notes. As it flows over the rocks, the water seems to sing. Huishan Garden has a jade harp stream, and its water also seems to make music. Huishan Garden, like Jichang Garden, has rockeries and pavilions arranged in the same beautiful manner. The 2 gardens also have exquisite pavilions, towers and bridges set out around water in the typical South China style. At the time of Emperor Jia Qing in the early 19th century, when Huishan Garden was known as Xiechu, a new hall was erected there. The hall was called Hanyuan, and it stood in front of Jianqing Hall. However, the addition proved to be a bad idea, as it interrupted an otherwise pleasant and sweeping view. Huishan Garden was a fruit of Emperor Qianlong's first visit to Hangzhou. In 1757 and 1762, he embarked on 2 further tours of the south, and he took artists with him who painted the beautiful landscapes. These paintings of southern China became blueprints for the ongoing building work at the Summer Palace. A famous feature of Hangzhou's West Lake is the Su Causeway. Similarly, Beijing's Summer Palace has the West Embankment on Lake Kunming. The Su Causeway is formed of 6 bridges, as is the West Embankment in the Summer Palace. Both have willows planted along them. There are also striking similarities in other details. Hangzhou's West Lake has Mount Gu to the north, West Lake to the south, and Su Causeway on its western side. Beijing's Summer Palace has Longevity Hill to the north, Lake Kunming to the south, and the West Embankment on the lake's western side. The arrangement is virtually identical. At first glance, it's hard to tell from the pictures which is West Lake and which Lake Kunming. However, a closer inspection reveals certain differences. For instance, the embankment inside the Summer Palace, unlike the straight one at West Lake, is winding. In fact, it follows the contours of Lake Kunming and Longevity Hill beside it. Changes like this have earned the Summer Palace the reputation of being more beautiful than anything in southern China. The designers of the garden soon realized how powerful the emperor's feelings were for southern China. They knew that his intention was to recreate the beauty of the landscape of southern China on the outskirts of Beijing, even though this meant breaking a promise he had made. In front of Le Shou Hall, the Hall of Happiness and Longevity, stands a truly massive rock. It's 8 meters long, 2 meters wide, 4 meters high, and weighs over 20 tons. The rock was discovered by a Ming Dynasty official named Mi Wanzhong in Fangshan in southwest Beijing. He ordered that it be brought to his home in the capital, but the transport costs were so exorbitant that he had spent all his money before the rock arrived. After this, the rock became known as the Rock of Bankruptcy. Emperor Qianlong, having seen the rock, decided it would serve as an ideal screen for the Hall of Happiness and Longevity. But getting it into the yard required demolishing the gate, an act that was vehemently opposed by the Empress Dowager. The rock was later given another name, reflecting its green colour and unusual shape: jade fungus. The rock from Fangshan would become one of the most talked about features at the Summer Palace. Many rocks from southern China were used to decorate Qingyi Yuan, as were large quantities of precious trees from the remotest parts of the country. Longevity Hill, with its pine trees, resembles Mount Huangshan in Anhui Province. The vast area of lotuses on the lake, meanwhile, is reminiscent of the water areas of the south. There are areas of the garden where the scenery of other regions other than Hangzhou is recreated. Huangshan Tower is modelled after Huanghe Tower or Yellow Crane Tower in Hubei Province, and on the far side of the hill there's a Tibetan-style temple. Kuoru Pavilion on the East Embankment and the 17-arch bridge recreate the scene at Lugou Bridge in the Beijing suburbs. The 17-arch bridge is 150 metres long and 8 metres wide, with 9 arches on each flank when counting from the middle. The number 9 was traditionally considered the supreme number and was thus reserved for the exclusive use of the imperial family. There are 544 stone lions carved on the rails of the 17-arch bridge. This is 59 more than there are on Lugou Bridge. In its design, the summer palace adheres strictly to Chinese tradition. There are, for example, 3 islands in Lake Kunming symbolizing the 3 mountains in the East Sea where, according to legend, the immortals live. The number 3 stands for the unity of heaven and earth, and the islands suggest that the garden is a place for immortals, or to be precise, emperors, to live. A bronze bull stands on the east embankment. It symbolizes all the elements that are favorable for farming. On the far western shore of Lake Kunming, there's a picture illustrating the traditional culture of men farming and women weaving. Located inside Wenchang Pavilion, or the Pavilion of Literary Prosperity, is a statue of Lord Wenchang. On the west slope of the hill inside Suyun, or Night Cloud Temple, is a statue of Lord Guan Yu. In traditional Chinese culture, these 2 deities represent loyalty and military success. The Dragon King Temple on Nanhu Island houses a statue of a dragon, with a phoenix statue to the south. The 2 mythical beasts stand for ultimate harmony in traditional culture. Jingyi Yuan, with its many scenes and attractions, has been described as the embodiment of traditional culture and a whole world inside a small garden.
Emperor Qianlong, it seemed, was obsessed with his pet project, a brand new garden in northwestern Beijing. The Summer Palace, as the garden would eventually be known, was a product of another of the emperor's obsessions, the scenery of the south. But what did this man-made marvel look like when it was finally completed after 15 years? Find out in episode 2 of Untold Stories from the Summer Palace.
Work on the garden was finally completed in the year 1764, the 29th year of Emperor Qianlong's reign. It had taken hundreds of thousands of the country's finest craftsmen 15 years to complete. As for the artist Dong Banda, we can only speculate on how he felt about the garden. Had he ever imagined that his painting of Hangzhou's West Lake would be transformed into the reality of a near-identical scene far to the north in Beijing? The emperor, through visit after visit to the south, ensured that Jingyi Yuan was created to mirror the beautiful scenery of the south. The concept was his, and the execution was overseen by him. With the nation's wealth and a vast army of craftsmen at his disposal, it became a cultural and architectural masterpiece. As a scholar would write about the garden later in the Qing dynasty, no more talk about the landscapes of the south, for they are all found here in the bosom of the emperor. A building stands on the east shore of Lake Kunming. Called Xijia Pavilion, it was built during Emperor Qianlong's reign. As the name suggests, it was a place for viewing the sunset. The 2 characters Xijia come originally from an ancient poem by Tao Yuanming the great poet of Eastern Jin. Mountains and sunset, birds returning home. The true meaning of the scene, can anyone tell? Emperor Qianlong was himself a poet, and he wrote several verses about the scenery in his garden. And yet, he never saw the scenery here at all. This was because he was bound by a promise he had made. The emperor had Qingyi Yuan built despite having given his word that he would never commit such extravagance. As a punishment, he imposed a rule on himself that he would never spend the night here. In this way, he hoped to earn his people's forgiveness. The emperor kept his promise, and so he never witnessed the ethereal beauty to be found here in the late afternoon. The garden at sunset assumes a charm of another kind, subtle, obscure, poetic, and romantic. One day in the summer of 1764, which was the 29th year of Emperor Qianlong's reign, lotus leaves could be seen dancing gracefully in the rain on a misty lake beneath a misty sky. The sight was typical of the natural scenery of southern China, but it could be witnessed at man-made Qingyi Yuan. The completion of the garden changed the effect of the rainfall that year. The rain and spring water, as it flowed down the Western and Jade Spring Hills outside Beijing, formed streams. The streams ran into the paddy fields where the finest rice was grown for the imperial family. The water also flowed into the Jade River, which, in turn, entered Qingyi Yuan and Lake Kunming. In this way, a system of waterways was created with Qingyi Yuan at its heart. Of the 5 imperial gardens in northwest Beijing, 4 were linked by waterways. This system of waterways provided irrigation for the nearby fields. The water also flowed from Lake Kunming all the way to the moat surrounding the Forbidden City in the heart of Beijing. 2 routes connected the Forbidden City and the Summer Palace, one by land, the other by water. The land route went out through the Shizhimen City Gate, and after passing through the Yuan Mingyuan Park, reached the main gate of the Summer Palace. The water route was faster and more scenic. The Emperor's dragon boat would depart from Yihongtang Wharf outside Shizhimen Gate, and after 9 kilometers, it would reach the Summer Palace. The canal, which dates from Emperor Qianlong's time, is still in use today. The waterway is narrow and winding. At one point, it's wide enough only for a single boat to pass. At the end of the canal, an arched bridge comes into view. This is Xiaoyi Bridge, the entrance to Qingyi Yuan by water. After passing under this bridge, the canal widens and the vast expanse of Lake Kunming comes into view. This layout accords with another principle of traditional Chinese landscape, that of making a sharp turn and finding another world. Directly ahead is the 17-arch bridge connecting to Nanhu Island. Through the arches of the bridge, a stone embankment can be seen extending from the east shore of Lake Kunming all the way into the distance. Beyond the bridge and Nanhu Island, the lake and Longevity Hill unravel gracefully like a scroll painting. Now, the Summer Palace is in full view. The sight is the final reward for the traveller who has made turn after turn to be greeted by one fresh surprise after another. Where is the finest scenery in all the Yanshan Mountains? It is certainly Lake Kunming and Qingyuan. These were the words of Emperor Qianlong. People today have not only the beautiful scenery to explore, but also the many stories told about this fascinating garden.